Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Beat, part of the Pitcher List Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Torres. I'll be your host today. On today's episode, we'll be discussing a team that I looked at this past offseason and said, there is no way this team can be good. I came on this podcast over the winter and basically said they were not going to overachieve again like they did in 2024. Well, of course, this team has gone on to run away with the National League and is now poised for a deep October run. Put me on Cold Takes Exposed. They made me look stupid again. We're talking, of course, about the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to be talking about them today and are going to be joined by our friend of the show, Curt Hogg, who is a Brewers beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Curt was our first guest of the 2025 season and will now be our final guest of the year. So a nice bookend to this season. But before we get to Curt, I have my co-hosts Mike Carter and Dave Funnel here with me. Fellas, let's start with this. I'm a genie. I'm a genie who can grant you one wish for the final weekend of this baseball season. What is one thing that you wish to happen before the curtain closes on this year? Mike, I'm going to start with you.
I want Scarlett Johansson to show up on my front porch. Is that too much to ask?
That has nothing to do with fantasy baseball. Let's keep it relevant.
But it does have to do with it does have to do with fantasy, unfortunately.
It is fantasy, yes. Okay, fair enough.
No, I think this is a great question. I was really kind of ruminating over the last couple hours. And Torres, this is no offense to you because I know that you are a pretty significant Yankees fan, also a little bit less of a Mets fan. But what I would really like to see happen, if the genie were to grant me one wish, is I would wish that a team that has not won the World Series or a team that hasn't won it in a long time would be able to win the World Series this year, which means no Yankees, no Dodgers. I'd really like to see somebody who hasn't done it in a long time be able to do it. I'd love to see the Brewers do that. I'd love to see the Padres do it, would be great. The Guardians would be the best. I'd just like to see different teams win if my team's not in it. And let's face facts, my team's not going to be in it for a long time.
Wait, the White Sox, have they been mathematically eliminated, or are you just expecting that they can't make a run at this point?
They were mathematically eliminated, I think, about May 15th.
Okay. All right. I missed that. Okay. All right. So that's what you want for baseball, like for the rest of the postseason. But what about this weekend coming up? Like, is there something fantasy wise that you would love to see happen with one of your teams or a player that you'd like to, see go off this weekend? Anything that comes to mind? Or
yeah, selfishly, I'm in the championship in my home league, and it's not gotten off to a great start this week. I hit on some good pitching last week. I've had some mediocre pitching and no offense so far. I do have a few things coming up still there. So I would love to be able to bring that home and do well there. I really want to finish in the top 5 in Glarf. I know right now that looks like it's in jeopardy. I'm hovering between 5th and 7th here for the last couple of weeks. I know that doesn't seem like a very lofty goal, but with that group of people that are in that league, finishing top 5 in there would be quite a coup for me. I did it last year, and I'd really like to be able to do it this year again.
All right. Sounds good, man. What about you, Dave?
I don't mean to make this an anti-Yankee segment, but
hey. Take it easy.
If Cal Raleigh could hit a few more home runs for me this weekend and Aaron Judge could slow things down, that would really help me in my home league. So, if Cal Raleigh can continue what he's doing, that would be fantastic for me.
So you've got the MVP, the AL MVP battle that's actually also relevant to your fantasy league right now.
Yeah, we're neck and neck, and he's got Judge, I've got Raleigh, and it's just we're going back and forth, and it's good too because we're good friends too. But I still want to beat him, obviously.
All right, well, good luck in that.
My question to you guys: who is the MVP if the season ended right now?
But first, let me answer the question, though. All right, who's going to be my genie?
All right.
I'll get to the MVP. I have an opinion on that. But who's going to be my genie? Mike, you look like you're more of the genie type with the beard, with the gray beard, like that. Just
genies are usually fat They're shirtless.
I didn't want to say it.
I'm not gonna take my shirt off though, because that would be so pasty and white. The glare would be really hard for the YouTube channel.
We put these on YouTube, so
please. Right.
The people at Pitcher List would not be okay with that.
No. That would not be a hot look for anyone.
All right. So what I need for this final weekend, I've been keeping you guys updated on my main event. I had a team in the main that looked dead. I thought it was like in 7th place. I'm like, forget it. I can't make a run. But over this past month, team has gotten hot. Things have just fallen into place. Now up to 3rd, with a faint shot at 2nd place. So 3rd is looking pretty likely, which is nice because I'll get my money back. And 2nd is within reach. And one of the players that's propelled me to even be in contention is Kyle Schwarber. Mm-hmm. So what I want to see is Kyle Schwarber play all 3 games this weekend. And I'm doubtful that he'll play Sunday because the Phillies they clinched. They have nothing to play for. But the only thing is if they want him to get to the magic 60 home runs. He's at 56 right now. So what would be awesome for my fantasy team in particular is if he could hit me another 4 home runs this weekend, and he's facing the pitchers to do it. He's at home against the Twins with Joe Ryan, Mick Abel, which is interesting. He's coming back to Philly for that game, and Simeon Woods Richardson on Sunday. I mean, if Schwarber plays Sunday, you telling me he can't hit 3 against SWR? That would be pretty sweet. So that would be, if I had one wish, be a 4 home run weekend from Kyle Schwarber, get me into 2nd place, and you go from $1,750, which I'll take, but then that jumps up to $3,500 for 2nd place. So that would be pretty sweet. We'll see what happens. Not counting on that, but you never know.
That would be incredible. That would be incredible. Let's will it into existence. Let's manifest it into existence, Chris.
Yep, I believe in that. I really do. Anyway, MVP. So I thought about this a little bit today. For me, and this is not any bias, or you guys know I'm harder on the Yankees than than anybody. But I think it has to be Judge. I mean, I think just when you're looking at a difference, and maybe this is too like old school, but I'm looking at a difference in batting average of like 80 points. Cal Raleigh's in the 240s. I don't have it in front of me, but Judge is like 320. I mean, I think that's such a large gap, and the fact Judge missed time too. So he's got less home runs, but he also played less games. Judge is at 328. In terms of his batting average. So I know if you're for Raleigh, you're going to say he's a catcher, plays every day. Total respect for him. And I think it's really it's like 50-50. But I would lean Judge. Quickly, what's your verdict there?
I have Raleigh just by a hair, but it's for the same reason that you just said. Like he's a catcher and just the defensive metrics. And he's one of the best catchers in the game as well, like catching, and it's such a physically demanding position, and he's a switch hitter. He does it from both sides of the plate. I agree with you on Judge though. Like he's been outstanding, and a lot of his metrics are so much better than Cal Raleigh that it does swing the pendulum that way. But I'd give it to Raleigh just by a hair if all the numbers line up the way that they were just for the position.
And Raleigh, for reference, batting 248. So 248 to 328 for Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
But I hear you. The defensive metrics look outstanding for Raleigh, and 60 home runs from a catcher. He may break the record. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks Judge's record this weekend. So, I mean, just what an incredible year. I don't think you could go wrong with either of them. Mike, real quick.
Yeah, the one thing I would say that's interesting about that to me is that, you look at what Judge does year in and year out, and that's a pretty consistent year for him. Like what Raleigh's career year is a pretty close, good. It would be a great year for Judge too. I wonder if Raleigh gets the edge here just because of the fact that it's such a historic season and people sort of underestimate Judge a little bit. I mean, it's almost like, yeah, okay, what did Judge do? Oh, he hit 320 and like hits 51 home runs. Like people have become so ingrained to believe that that's just going to happen. Right. I wonder if Raleigh edges him there because of that.
Right. It's almost like just to be expected. I could see Raleigh just because it's like, oh, Judge has had it before, so let's give it to Raleigh just because of this insane season, historic for a catcher. So we'll see. But anyway, let's get into our topic for today. Like I mentioned before, we're talking Milwaukee Brewers. So as I've done the past few weeks, I've been asking you guys, which player from each of these teams are you most interested in for 2026? So let's identify one for the Brewers here. I'm going to start with you, Mike. Which player are you eyeing in your drafts for next year?
Well, you know how much I love Bryce Terang, and so I took him out of the equation for this because I didn't feel that was fair. We've talked about him before. The Brewers have a lot of similar type of guys, right? Guys that hit for high contact, maybe don't hit the ball very hard, but get on base at a very high clip. They're all very good defensively. And it seems like all of them can run. There's sort of a recipe there in Milwaukee. And the player that I was going to bring up in this segment was Caleb Durbin. We saw him play last year, Chris, in the Arizona Fall League when we were down there for First Pitch Arizona. And he was impressive there. I thought, wow, this is a guy that looks like he can play a little bit. He's small of stature. He didn't really know what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden the trade happens and he gets moved to the Brewers for Devin Williams. And they didn't really know what to do with him at first. He's in the minor leagues for a while. They brought him up in May. In May he hit like 202, no home runs. He stole some bases or whatever. Every month he's gotten seemingly stronger while playing second base and third base. He's got third base eligibility for next year, it looks like. But what I really like is as a corner infield type of guy, I wouldn't say he's your number one third baseman, but he's going into the final weekend hitting 260 now after hitting under 200 for the better part of 2 months. He's got 11 home runs. He's got 17 stolen bases. He's very good defensively. He's got good sprint speed. They're going to continue to use him in a good spot there. Now, you look at the Brewers and you think, oh, what are the Brewers going to do in the offseason? I know that we're going to talk about that with Curt. If they don't do anything, they're going to start the season with Durbin playing third base again next year. Mm-hmm. And they'll be more than happy to do that. I think he's somebody that's going to fly under the radar a little because I think people probably don't know the name yet as much as they're going to know it next year. But you're looking at a guy that's going to hit for a decent average. There's reason to think that his average might actually end up being a little higher next year. The guy squares up the baseball. He does not strike out. His walk rate could use a little bit of improvement, which would help, fuel the batting average and a little bit of OBP there. But I really like Caleb Durbin, and I think he's a guy that should be on the radar for fantasy players for 2026.
He's such a Brewer, man. Like, this is the quintessential Milwaukee Brewer. Not doesn't do anything great, but makes contact. And just, a solid scrappy guy, that just personifies this team. All right. So Caleb Durbin for Mike. What about you, Dave? Who are you most interested in for 2026? You're muted.
For me, it's dependent on
we're last show of the year and you're muting. Yeah, you didn't do that all year, and now the last show you're muting yourself.
It got a little noisy, so I'm, you know how it is. For me, it's dependent on the outcome though of Trevor McGill, who's been outstanding this year. Like, he's been their go-to guy at the end of games. 30.7% strikeout rate, unbelievable. But he's been injured. And he had a flexor strain late in August, and he's had them before. But he himself said that this one was quite mild. And he tried, and he said he was going to try and return within that 15-day window, but he rushed things. He had himself a setback. And these kinds of things are scary. A lot of players do that a lot, is that they want to get back into the game. And especially this late in the season, I think he was trying to get himself back in time for the playoffs. I believe Nestor Cortez did that last year too. He was hurt, but he rushed back, came back, and was able to pitch. And then look at him this year. I'm a little worried that if he does come back and he does push himself through these players, depending on how far they go, he might be one of those guys that comes into the team in April and starts getting injured again, and that the injury creeps up and he gets shut down. It's one of those things that he'll feel that he's okay throughout the offseason. Rest is going to be okay. And then next thing you know, he has himself what he thinks is a normal offseason, comes in, and bam, he's hurt again. So that's my long-winded way of saying I'm keeping an eye on this situation because their bullpen this year from top to bottom has been outstanding. And some of the guys like Abner Uribe finally figured out how to pitch. 30.5% K rate, 46.8% whiff rate on the slider. Aaron Ashby finally stayed healthy, multi-inning reliever. Koenig, he was incredible as well. He was very reliable. They have DL Hall, Nick Mears, Grant Anderson. I want to see who the next guy up is in spring training, whoever that is, because they know how to get this pitching. They're the pitching machine. So I want to keep track of who's going out there in spring training.
Well, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, and this segues into the player I was going to pick, and it's Abner Uribe. I think he's the guy, and it seems like there's been a pretty linear way in which the Brewers have addressed their bullpen. You know, you had Devin Williams, you saw Trevor McGill as the heir apparent, right? And so they trade Williams, McGill steps into the role. McGill gets hurt this season, and they had Uribe as the heir apparent to him. He steps into the role without McGill there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see with McGill coming back and how this postseason plays out. Obviously, that's going to dictate Abner Uribe's price during the offseason. Let's say McGill comes back and saves a couple games, in the postseason. You're going to get Abner Uribe at a pretty nice price. Probably in some of these DCs, I imagine he's going to be in kind of that handcuff range, which usually is around like pick 300 to 350. I could see myself in that scenario taking a lot of Abner Uribe because I have the same concerns that you do, Dave, channeling my inner Davey Downer and, looking at the worst case scenario, as you've taught me so well to do. But for real, though, I mean, McGill has had a lot of these kind of nagging injuries, and he hasn't had the big one yet. And of course, you don't wish that upon him, but it just seems like things are trending in that direction. Like we're going to get a notification at some point, even if he gets through the postseason healthy, we get a notification that he's, hurt in spring or whatever. And then Abner Uribe is basically a guy that you're going to have to pay near a top 100 price for. And Uribe has shown, like you mentioned, Dave, he's got really good skills. This is not some guy that just thrusting into the role who is not, capable of being really dominant. He had a 2.86 Sierra this season, induces on top of the strikeout numbers. He's halved his walk rate from 18% last year to 9% this season, induces a really soft quality of contact, only a 23.3% hard hit rate allowed. I really like the skills and the improvements that he's made this season. So I think McGill coming back is actually going to present a nice buying opportunity and someone that I'm going to be taking a lot of, especially during DC season. Mike, any opposition or any other thoughts on Uribe?
No, Uribe is terrific, and I've had him be the closer in waiting for a while there in Milwaukee. We were a little premature on him last year, but this year he really looks to be that guy. Just fantastic stuff. Everything looks like it would be in order for him to be able to take that next step and be the closer. 37 holds this year, leads the major leagues in holds. Definitely a high line guy that you want to have on your radar for next year.
Yep. Anything else with this Brewers team, guys? They've had some interesting, guys with interesting years. I mean, I was just looking at Christian Yelich. He was someone we talked about in the offseason, and I was pretty reluctant because of the injury he had, or I believe it was a surgery, right, Dave, that he had last offseason, and
in his back,
right. I hear back surgery. I'm like, nah, I don't want any part of that. Even if he stays healthy, are the skills going to be the same? Is he going to steal bases like he did? And really, he put all those concerns to rest. I mean, he had a tremendous year for the Brewers, pretty much showed no after effects from that surgery, stayed healthy pretty much the whole season. So one thing that I noticed just looking at his profile, we know he hits the ball on the ground a lot, and that didn't change this year. 56.9% ground ball rate so far this year. So the same worm burning Christian Yelich that we've always known. But the main difference and what's led to him having 29 home runs, which is just a huge surprise, is that he's got a 30.5% home run to fly ball rate, which is obscene. You know, he's got really good power. We know that, but that's a pretty crazy, unsustainable level. So I just thought that was interesting in looking at his profile. I can't say that he shouldn't be, you know, someone you should be interested in or buying at his price next year, which will be higher, obviously, than it was this past season. But just something to keep in mind that power that we're seeing this year might not be quite at that level next year, and especially another year older. I'll probably still be on the fade Christian Yelich train. What about you guys? Real quick, yes or no on Yelich?
I'm in, but like you said, I think the price is going to be high, and I'll probably not want to buy it at however high it might have to be. But the fact that he's going to hit probably 30 home runs this year and maybe get closer to 20 stolen bases, that's pretty good. And I'm really just happy that he was able to stay healthy and persevere here. So he's one of the feel good stories of the year.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, for sure. I was in at the price that he was at this year. I mean, Dave kind of convinced me. I had him in my home league all season, and he was fantastic for me. I think the price next year might be exorbitant. I see that rising based on the statistics that he has this year, which means I probably will not be having too many shares of Yelich next year. Unfortunately, he's one of my favorite players.
Another player that I didn't really have any shares of, I didn't at all, was Freddie Peralta. And I'm regretting that as well. He was looking back at his ADP. I'm like, what was I thinking? Not being into Freddie Peralta going past pick 100. He's been really impressive this season as well. Guys, any thoughts on Peralta's season? Did you have him anywhere? And any thoughts on his prospects for next year?
I didn't have him at all anywhere, and I was worried, actually. I thought maybe he was on the regression train. Like,
I thought he was just declining. Yeah, it just, I don't know. The skills seem to be falling off a little bit. He's getting older.
Yeah, I thought he had peaked.
Yeah,
I thought it was who he was, and then maybe this was just, you know, he was just going to slow down. But he's looked outstanding this year. I do regret not having him either, and I'll reconsider heading into next year.
Yeah, you know what's funny for me too, Dave? I mean, I always think of him as injured. And you go back and look at the last 3 years, and he's made 30 starts 3 years in a row. You know, and so I think I have to do a little bit better research on guys like him. When he was kind of going in that glob, you know, where I was happy to get, you know, one of those guys. There was 5 or 6 guys that all seemed like they were pretty similar at around the same ADP, and I never ended up getting him, and I do regret that as well, because I would have liked to have had him. The concern that I had going in, you know, he doesn't get a lot of wins, but he had 17 wins this year so far, and 12 and 23 and 11 and 24, which is going to cause me to go back and reconsider. And what I love, over 160 innings all 3 years and over 200 strikeouts in all 3 years. This is a guy that is seemingly undervalued.
Yeah, like what else do we want? You know, we're always trying to find guys who could give us innings and who could give us strikeouts and who are on a good team. Well, Freddie Peralta does all of that.
All those things.
I don't understand. It was just a complete blind spot for me. I don't know. I just maybe got bored of him. Maybe it was just too boring of a pick. He was going in main events at pick 103, which just in hindsight, you know, of course, hindsight is 2020, but it just made no sense. He was going after Roki Sasaki, he went after Christopher Sanchez, but that, you know, I think that turned out fine for those who invested in Sanchez, but just in a range where it seemed like he really should have been more highly drafted, I think. And yeah, just to bookend this, 2.68 ERA for Freddie Peralta on the season with a 1.07 whip, just an outstanding year. And anybody who rostered him this year is pretty happy with that investment. All right, we are happy to welcome on, and we'll talk Freddie Peralta and all things Brewers with our guests right now. We've got Curt Hogg with us. We're so happy to have him here. He's a friend of the show, been on many times. He's a beat writer for the Milwaukee Brewers at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Curt, my first question to you is, this is really what I wanted to know. Have you had a bite of one of Pat Murphy's pocket pancakes? That's really all I care about.
This is the only thing for my year that matters.
Right.
Is I was the first one to eat a pocket pancake after the world learned what pocket pancakes were.
Stop. Wow.
So he did the interview. I think it was on Apple TV.
Right.
He did in mid-game interview. Like the whole thing, by the way, I don't want to like say it was staged, but they had this pre-planned, and my sneaking suspicion, knowing Pat Murphy, is it was right after the trade deadline. Like fans were hammering the Brewers for not doing anything, and then he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna eat a pocket pancake." And it's all yeah. And then they won 14 games in a row after that, so that might help too. But then in the post game that day, I did ask Murph about the pancakes, and then he's literally chewing on one, and he goes, "Yep, want to bite?" And I'm like, "No, not that one."
That's
and then
disgusting, man. Like, wait, it's just so gross.
He had a different one. We did not bond over the same pocket pancake, but I did eat one.
Okay. So he's really keeping them in his pocket and he's sweating.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a legit thing. Is like pocket pancake is a real thing. It's not just pancakes. It's like in Texas, he had a little brisket sandwich. Which we're like, that can't hold well. Think about a pancake. A pancake can at least hold decently. Now your mileage on like a dry pancake may vary. I'm fine with it, but some people probably aren't. But a brisket sandwich after an hour, no thank you.
Yeah, no bueno.
That was just foul. Like watching that interview with that Apple reporter, the sideline reporter, I'm like, did she really just do that? Like that just doesn't seem right. But wow, that is quite a claim to fame. You were the first person to have one after that infamous interview. So congratulations on that. And hey, listen, congratulations. This has been a great year overall. The Brewers are just crushing it again, defying expectations. I started the show by saying, I think you were on our first show of the season, and I was questioning, like, is this team going to be any good? Looking at this lineup, I knew the pitching would be pretty good, but just seemed like they had no way to score runs, and they're just doing Brewers things again. All right, so most of the questions I'm sure you're getting now, Curt, are about the playoffs, right? But for us fantasy gamers, we're already focused on offseason and what this Brewers team may look like in 2026. So let's start with, what are some potential areas that you could see the Brewers trying to address through trades and or free agency this offseason?
Well, not a lot.
Okay, so kind of
typical. I mean, this is a typical Brewers offseason. I mean, we'll see. I think maybe how long this run ends up being might determine a little of, revenue-wise, how much they have to spend. But look, they were one of the teams going into this season that was planned to be on their own RSN. Like they were going to do their own thing, like the Guardians, the Twins, the Padres, all those clubs. Then they kind of went back on that. They're like, okay, we might not be ready to do all this. And so they re-upped with FanDuel Sports Network. They're making pennies on the TV deal this year, in the 20s of millions, which I don't know if you may or may not be familiar with how much teams are making, but that's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like the Dodgers are what? 200 mil, 300 mil, something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So the effects of that might be seen this upcoming off season, where like the Brewers haven't spent, but they haven't not spent either. They've been kind of in this middle ground where like you can't lump them in with the Pirates. Mm-hmm. But you also you see more room. Like, well, if you just maybe invest in your team a little more, maybe you'd be even better. But it's difficult to complain with this team anyway. Maybe the outfield, like they'll find ways to upgrade their team via trade, especially maybe some marginal free agent upgrades. They're not going to pay for pitching. There's not a lot of holes on the roster either, but maybe another outfield marginally, even though they have some good guys out there. that front office loves Joey Ortiz. I think the rest of baseball would see a very clear need for an upgrade at shortstop, but they might give him some more runway there too. So the Brewers will not be one of the most active teams this offseason once again, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not too surprising there. You brought up Joey Ortiz. Quickly, what happened to him this year? I mean, I think a lot of us had pretty high expectations for him, that he would kind of step into that role and be pretty solid all-around player. Kind of turned around a little bit in the later half of the season, but it's been a struggle. So what are your thoughts on him?
That's a long answer.
Okay.
His ultimately, like, he and the Brewers have not ever figured out his swing and how to make it more efficient. They can get kind of long. He gets under the ball, he clips it up in the air. The timing and the bat path have just really not fully been figured out. They've tinkered with a lot of different looks at the plate over the last couple of years. And like the front office, though, they still do love him. Like there's a lot of people that make a lot of important decisions for the Brewers that see the ingredients. They talk about the ingredients. And obviously his defense gives you some runway to let him try to figure those out. So my gut would be he is the shortstop going into next year, but they've got to challenge him with someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that could be one of those areas to look at upgrading this offseason. Let's move to the rotation, and I think this is where the Brewers are most interesting, and particularly in terms of fantasy, because they've got some really intriguing arms in that rotation. Obviously, Mizorowski. You've got Brandon Woodruff, who's currently injured. We talked about Freddie Peralta, Quinn Priester, Logan Henderson when he comes back. So. And there's other names too. So I want to hear from you, Curt. Who do you think is going to be in this rotation on opening day?
It's again going to be the strength of the team. I don't think they've traded Freddie Peralta. They will obviously. This is the Brewers. They'll entertain any offers anyone has for him. But he's sort of in the same boat as Willy Adames was. Remember when they didn't trade him, and that people assumed they would. Like a guy that means a ton to the franchise, to the clubhouse, and then also goes out. You guys were talking about Freddie right before I hopped on, and he pitches he's going to make 32 starts this year. Maybe not a ton of innings, but he posts every single start. So he means a lot to them. So I think it'll be Freddie, and then this is the strength of the club. Priester will be back after an incredible year. Mizorowski, Logan Henderson, Robert Gasser will be in the mix somehow. Chad Patrick, don't forget about Chad Patrick, was incredible for the first half of the season. I don't know if Brandon Woodruff's going to sign. I don't know what the rest of the market's going to be for him if someone throws a bankroll at him and he takes it. But right now, I would bet on the Brewers to re-sign him. So add that into the mix as well. And all of a sudden, I think that's 7 names. That's pretty good, and that will sort itself out naturally. And that's pretty good depth to have over the course of the year.
Yeah, oftentimes that is needed. And a quick note on Freddie Peralta. I didn't realize how team-friendly his contract was. What a steal.
Yeah.
He signed in 2020 a 6-year, $22 million contract. He's making $8 million a year, which, I mean, to me and you, yeah, that sounds like a lot of money. But for a pitcher of his caliber is ridiculous. There's a website that calculates his actual market value based on his performance and comparables. He should be making around $30 million a year. That would be his market value. So for the Brewers to have him at 8 is just such a steal for them and such an advantage. But this rotation has a lot of really good arms. Quick on Mizorowski. I know people are going to be wondering, how many innings do you think we get from him next season?
Well, a little quick math. They're probably going to push him to around 130-ish, 140-ish, including the playoffs this year. I think you're at close to a full load next year.
Okay.
Like, I don't think the workload is necessarily the question with him next year. I think it's the same questions that we have for him now. And if he can even get to that point of he's got to pitch 5-6 innings regularly to get to 155 innings. I think the Brewers would be more than fine with 155, 160 innings. And if you're getting that out of Mizorowski, whether it's real life or fantasy, you feel great about it. So workload isn't necessarily the question with him so much as it's is he going to figure out how to pitch? Is he going to be able to command the ball, control the ball? Obviously, we all know the big questions with Miz, and we know the upside too.
Yeah.
Mike, what's his ADP next year? What would be your guess?
Oh man, I think he's going to be in the top 100. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, he came up and was great, and then he's struggled a little bit lately. As Curt is saying, the efficiency issues have been seemingly pretty big for him. But I think the upside there is so big and so huge. I'm going to be willing to pay for that. By the way.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I'm not as much a fan. I play one league, but I think like if you build the rest of your team, like you have some safer pitchers,
Right.
you don't want a bunch of all risk. Maybe you do.
How about you get Freddie
that's your
Peralta?
thing. You get Freddie
Right,
Peralta.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Although I will say, I think this year was like best case Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, you're buying high for sure.
He didn't take like a huge strides forward in some of the question marks around him, but he was still incredible. I don't mean to disparage Freddie at all, but this was best case Freddie. And like you could bet on the Brewers too, to the Brewers pitching and Miz to figure it out. Like it's not that crazy to think he throws 130, 140 innings and pitches pretty well next year.
Yeah. You mentioned Logan Henderson. Can you give us an update on him and his health?
Yeah, he'll be ready at some point. If the Brewers go on a playoff run here, he will be ready at some point. Whether or not he pitches, different question. Not having seen him like on a mound, on a big league mound before the playoffs, although they could sure use some starters right now. So a healthy Logan Henderson would be really big. But he'll be back. He'll be fully healthy, assuming nothing happens in the offseason for spring. And I would for sure pencil him, unless the Brewers make some crazy moves to the rotation, I would pencil him in for sure early as one of the starting five. Like there's probably less risk there going like just looking at it next spring than you have with Mizorowski.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty salty this year when they sent him down. I thought about sending you an angry DM. Not that it was your fault, but just like I felt like
he was rolling. He was rolling.
He really was.
And I had him in several spots, drafted him in like round 45 of a few leagues, and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a huge hit. And then, he's rolling and then no more. And then he gets hurt. And so, but still, even what he did provide was pretty sweet given his price. Curt, I know you're dialed into the Brewers minor league system. You follow those players closely. We can't talk about the Brewers minor league without talking about Jesus Made, who is an 18-year-old number 2 prospect among many people in baseball. And if you could tell me a little bit about him. I don't know too much about him, but if you could tell our listeners about Jesus Made and what his timeline looks like for him to actually get to the major leagues.
Yeah, well, on the timeline first, he's on the Churio track. He'll start next year at Double-A. They called him up to High A pretty late in the year, and he short sampled, but he laid waste to it. So they'll challenge him. They challenge other guys. They'll challenge him at Double-A. He'll probably spend most of, if not all the year there, unless, like, remember Churio got off to a slow start there, and so that's kind of one of the reasons he spent the whole year. So if it's June, July, and he's absolutely, blasting Southern League pitching, maybe he goes up to AAA. But I still think at some point in 2027, assuming we have a season that year, Jesus Made will be up with the Brewers. He's a super fascinating prospect. There's another guy, also 18 years old, same signing class, Luis Pena. And they've been kind of going up the ladder together. And Pena had better numbers at Low A, Carolina, for the first 3-4 months the year before they were promoted. So they were both getting a lot of hype. There were some questions about, is it Pena or Made? Who's better? And then at High A, it became pretty clear that Made's the guy. Pena's still an interesting prospect too, but Made is the guy. It's potentially plus hit tool. He'll grow into some power. I'm not sure he's ever going to be like the Churio power guy, but 15, 20-ish homers for sure seems plausible for him. He can hit the ball hard. He's got good swing decisions. And the other thing too, this isn't going to, give you fantasy categories, but he plays good defense. I think he's going to stick at shortstop, and that's going to have some value as well because he steals a lot of bases, and then you're going to get some, like I said, you're going to get some homers from him as short as well. So he seems to be the real deal. We'll see when he's challenged at AA this year. That's a big jump for a lot of guys, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I'm looking at some rookie cards right now on eBay.
Ooh.
I've got a 2025 Bowman Green. I don't know what any of this stuff means. These cards have gotten so crazy. $60 for a Bowman ungraded Jesus Made card. Should I buy it?
Is it signed? I don't
It's
know
not
how
signed.
that works. Not signed.
I'm looking at signature.
I have no idea.
But like,
actually,
you see a guy, you
buy it,
you
and I'll
say
take.
you
I'll
buy.
I'll
Huh?
try to take. I'll try to take care of you on the on the auto.
Oh, I like that. See, we got the
We'll
hookup.
we'll buy low, and then I'll
All
try
right.
to hook you guys up.
Very cool.
Chris, I think it depends on whether or not you finish in the money in your league this weekend.
No, for
Ooh.
real. Like, I
You
might
know.
as well reinvest in some Jesus Made cards.
That's what I'm saying. Reinvest.
Yeah. Curt, anybody else in the Brewers minor league system that you think fantasy gamers should be aware of heading into next year?
So on a year-to-year basis, they don't have as many guys. Jefferson Caro's a name people are going to know, but like he's going to be the backup to Wild Bill Contreras, who plays every single day. Like they finished the year without a ton of guys at AAA that are going to impact the ball club next year. It's the Logan Henderson, it's the Robert Gasser, it's those guys whose names you're probably familiar with. They do have a fair amount of intriguing names. Like the AA team was pretty loaded this year. Luis Lara is going to be a special defensive player who steals bases, probably gets on base. Bishop Letson is a pitcher. I think he's 20 or 21. Still a little bit away. He'll be at AA next year. Those are guys whose stock soared a little bit. Luke Adams is maybe the under the radar name, not a super flashy tools guy, but has produced at a super high level, gets on base. He plays first base. He'll be at AAA next year. And then Brock Wilken, I'm not sold on his profile, but definitely one to keep an eye on as he's at AAA next year. And like, if he's just mashing the cover off the ball and not swinging and missing too much, Brewers will give him a shot.
Brock Wilkins just sounds like a powerful man. I feel like that dude, like he's gonna hit some home runs in the major leagues.
Oh, it's 70 raw power, man.
Of course, his name's Brock Wilkins.
Brock Wilkins. big boy,
Yeah.
big boy. Who the Brewers deviated from their usual draft process. They took him in the first round, and I think it was 2023. They always go like these model guys the model loves who play defense and run fast, and they're like, no, we're just gonna take this dude who swings and misses and hits homers, and I'm not sure it's gonna work out great, but it might. He's got the 70 power.
Yeah, that'll play. Let's take a quick commercial break because we're due for one. We'll be right back with Curt. All right, Curt, we were talking in our first segment about the closing situation in Milwaukee. And of course, our friend here, Dave, he's a major worrywart, and he's always looking for injuries and a reason that we should be concerned about a player. And I think he had some valid points about Trevor McGill for next year. We'll see what happens when he comes back and how he looks in the postseason. So I recognize there's more to come here, but what do you think this looks like? Do you think that he just gets put back in the role, and assuming he's healthy, he's just the guy? Is he a potential trade candidate? What are your thoughts on the closing situation in Milwaukee?
All the above.
Okay.
It's a fluid situation. I do think that the Brewers will shop him, entertain offers for him. Look, Abner Uribe has been absolutely incredible. I mean, he's been, no joke, one of the best relief pitchers in baseball. He's thrown so much. He's at 74 innings, and we're all just like, been since like May. We're like, can he handle this? Can he handle? And then he just has kept getting better, and he's throwing strikes. His command has been really good. So the Brewers they do have the next closer, and this is not just a guy who popped up. Like, we've had Abner Uribe on the radar as the Brewers' potential future closer for 3-4 years now. So if you held on to him, good for you. I did.
Mike was driving that bus for years.
I was on the bus, and then in my dynasty, last year I had a roster crunch, and I was like, I got to drop him. Mm-hmm. Whoops. So that was a stupid thing for me to do. So look, the flexor strain that's what McGill has. That is not an injury like that to mess around with. Those can be serious. They can lead to more problems, obviously. he might try to pitch, not entirely pitch through it. Like they've healed it up a little bit, but it is, to be clear, it does not seem to be at a spot where he's like at 100%. He is fully healed. It's a question of like, can he pitch through it? Can he recover? Can he get the stuff off? Does he want to pitch through it? I think he does. And ultimately, I think he will in the playoffs because he's a gamer. Most pitchers would. He's ultra competitive, 6'8" closer. He's going to pitch through it.
Mm-hmm.
So how this ultimately plays out, I'm not sure, but you put the pieces together and it does start to seem a little bit like the Brewers might sell. I don't know if it's selling high on him because he's a really good pitcher, but selling him at a spot where his value is pretty high. I'm not saying they're going to, but that's possible for sure that he could be somewhere else, probably in a closer's role next year, while Abner Uribe slides over into the Brewers closer role.
Yeah, I think the great thing about McGill is that he's proven that he can serve in multiple roles, right? So you could move him as a closer, and another team could look at him and say, wow, we have the ability to be able to use him in the 8th or the 9th if we want to. He's been great in both roles. Just a really good pitcher.
Yeah, they figured a lot out with him. I mean, he came over from the Twins, and he was, I don't want to say a very raw product because he was still 28, 29 years old, but
he was a mess.
He was a mess. That's it. He was a mess.
All right, Curt, last question. We are going to ask you about the playoffs now. Give us your prediction on what this Brewers team does in the playoffs.
Please be a good prediction. Please be good.
I've got them winning a series this time.
Okay.
I've got them winning one series at least. I just have enough questions about, do they have enough starting pitching? You don't need a ton, but you do need some. And they have two guys right now. They have Peralta, they have Priester. Quintana theoretically will come back at some point, but I'm not entirely sure how much that actually helps you compared to if you just hodgepodge it with Gasser, with Patrick and all those guys. Mizorowski's a huge question mark. They're probably not going to start him, and that's probably the right call as well. So it's just a matter of we can forget how long and grueling the playoffs can be because the regular season is so long, but you do need some semblance of I guess you don't have to have some semblance of starting pitching. They could hodgepodge this all the way throughout, but it's not often that teams get by in that capacity. So that is where my concern comes into play in a 7-game series. And that's not to mention, I think the questions everyone has had about their offense, you don't hit homers. Are the 3 or 4 guys in your lineup that can hit homers, are they going to do it in this series? Because you got Yelich that does it, you got Churio that does it, but he's slowed down significantly this month. Contreras can do it. And then apparently Bryce Terang is the guy that can do it. Are those guys going to hit home runs? If not,
what a crazy year it's been for Bryce Terang. I mean, he was a guy we thought was just no power, like a 5 home run guy and a 40 to 50 steal guy. And all of a sudden he's out here hitting, what is he up to 18 home runs this year?
18 homers. Yeah. He hit 10 in August.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to sit quietly on Terang. I'll sit quietly on this one. Sorry, Chris.
You were a big Bryce Terang guy.
I'm a big Terang guy. I was at the beginning of the year too. I didn't expect 18 home runs.
Him to do this has been crazy. For him to have now 18 home runs, but then the stolen bases, it's kind of evened out because now he only has 20 something stolen bases. So
he's got the hands. I told you about him a long time ago.
Yeah,
he's got the hands.
You've always been high on him. Yep. So, real quick, because we didn't mention him, and I almost forgot about him. Brandon Woodruff. What's if you could give us an update on where he's at?
It does not sound like he's going to pitch in the postseason. It's not. It's a lat strain. It is not. How do I put this? It's related to the shoulder surgery, but not in a severe way. It's more of a symptom of pitching and putting all this strain on his body when his body's still somewhat in recovery. Just kind of something that flares up for a lot of guys, or so it sounds. I don't think he's going to be able to come back in the postseason. Maybe if they make a really, really long run, he'll be able to give them something. But I think he's also a little bit at a point where he's looking long-term, and rightfully so. He's come all the way back from the shoulder surgery. He pitched really well. He expects to get his velocity back at 94, 95, 96 next year. He expects that. And so that's an exciting thing for him. I think it's an exciting thing for the Brewers, who might very well re-sign him, but that's another big blow to him personally, to the Brewers, to not have him for the playoffs, because like I was just talking about, it does change your whole entire picture when you go from Brandon Woodruff, who's a really, really trustworthy pitcher, to, all right, guys, our backs are against the wall on the road. Which of you are going to get us outs today?
Right.
Like, it's like Chad Patrick, I think, has impressed, but Chad, how many outs can he give us? It's a lot different than Brandon Woodruff.
Yeah. Woodruff has looked great coming off of that surgery. I mean, the strikeout stuff was there. Wasn't walking guys. All the underlying skills looked great. He's going to be an interesting for fantasy. He's going to be an interesting guy to look at this offseason, because you're going to get a nice discount on him.
For sure.
If we don't see him come back in the playoffs. But the skills are outstanding. So maybe it's a better thing. Give him this time. He got his 60 or so innings in this year, and give him time to, have a regular offseason. And, maybe he's not a full go. I doubt you're going to get full workload out of him next year, but
sure,
could be really valuable. And he has an option for next year with the Brewers. Is that
mutual? That'll get declined. Yeah.
Okay. So he may be pitching elsewhere.
He may be pitching elsewhere if someone, like I said, someone throws the money bank at him. But Woodruff's he's a lifelong Brewer, and one of those guys that might take a little bit of a discount to stay there with his family. Yeah. Who knows? We'll see. And it's also important to note too, he was hitting big velo numbers when he was at his peak this season. That was like right around the trade deadline. I think there was maybe a start in Washington early August where, I don't know what the average velo was, but it had to be 94, 95. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it was clear that he was hitting a wall and everything ticked down. But we have seen him throwing not fully back to his old self, but hitting 95s, hitting 96s on the radar gun. So I think that's encouraging too, to note that you're not just speculating on, he'll probably get back. He was pretty close to back and then hit that.
We already saw it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Good stuff, Curt. Well, thank you so much for your time. You've always been good to us. Can you tell our listeners where they could find you on social media and where they could find your work?
Yeah, all our work. We got a lot of it for the postseason, jsonline.com. I'm on Twitter at Curt Hogg with a Y instead of a U, CYRT, HOGG. And on the B Sky as well. Same handle. Find me there. It's about to be a busy time, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
All right. And enjoy this postseason run,
All
Curt.
best.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
We
guys.
appreciate you, Curt. Thanks so much.
Of course. Yeah, catch you later.
See you. All right. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with our mental health minute.
All right, cool, fellas. Thanks for having me. Always a good time.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Curt. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Bye. All right. How do you guys want to do you want me to just hand it to you, Dave? I know you wanted to, you kind of had a topic, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to, I could list off every guest we've had as a way to say thank you, or
I don't think it's necessary. I mean,
no,
they're not listening, it's
okay.
I think we could just thank them, thank everybody who came on. Yeah, however you want to do it. I don't know.
Okay, I'm just counting. So we've had 20 different guests. I'll just say the number 20. I'll say all 20 of our guests, and
okay.
I'll just, I don't know. I'll ramble and then you cut in.
Freeform Jazz Odyssey, baby. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. All right, we are back for our mental health minute, final one of the season, and I'm going to pass it over to Dave, who's going to lead our segment.
Yeah, so for this week, since it's our last show of the regular season, we were just trying to come up with something of a way to cap off this season. We thought, what better way to do it than just by saying thank you. Thank you to, first of all, to all the listeners out there, anyone who's ever listened to us. It's been a great ride. So we appreciate all the support we've ever gotten. But also we want to also thank all the guests that we've had. It's tough to get guests. It's tough to secure guests, but it's also tough for the guests as well, because they are, you know, they're writers, they're following the team, and they're making time out of their day to come talk to us about fantasy baseball. So for that, for the 20 different guests that we've had on this season, a huge thank you for enlightening us and inspiring us and helping us, you know, with our fantasy teams. And just from myself to you guys as well, Chris and Mike, it's been a blast this year. I've learned a lot from you guys, and I have a blast every week that we get to sit down together, talk about baseball, laugh about baseball, and talk about mental health and help each other out. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say to everyone.
All right back at you, man. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Mike, for being awesome partners in this. And you know, love doing this show. It's not easy. Doing a weekly show is not easy. I think all of us are, you
No
know,
doubt.
sometimes are a little burnt out, or, you know, Mike, you talked about your frustrations with like finding like it's a lot. It's a lot
Yeah.
of work, but it's in my mind definitely worth it, and I love doing it with you guys.
Absolutely.
Mike, any wise words here?
Yeah, I think, you know, just to kind of sum up what Dave said and what you guys are saying, you know, I think we live in a world today that can get pretty dark pretty quickly, and there's a lot of people around us and near us that are struggling with a lot of different things in the world today. You know, I've had to do some things with work lately that I never thought that I would have to do, like figure out how to defend students against ICE protocols and things of that nature. You know, stuff that I never figured. And the light and the darkness of the insanity of my week is always doing this show with you guys. You guys, not only are we baseball fans and baseball friends, but you guys are my friends. And I appreciate that at a really deep level. We talk every day. And there's not that many people in the world that I talk to every day. I talk to you guys every single day. And I know that that'll maybe lessen a little bit as baseball season winds down, or as we go through the playoffs and, you know, kind of figure out what's going on with
our teams.
Right. But that type of light is something that I need, and I look forward to Thursday nights because of the fact that I get to see you guys. I get to talk about something that I really enjoy with you guys, and it is a total departure from what I do during the course of the week. You know, my work is really busy. I have 3 jobs currently, as you guys know, and stay really busy. So doing this with you guys has really been my release and my fun. I really want to thank the guys at Pitcher List for taking us on this year and giving us a platform and helping us expand that platform. And I look forward to what's to come with our friendships and also with this show, because I think there's a lot of room for growth, and you guys have great ideas for you know, making that more going forward. And I love being part of that with you guys. So much love to you guys and everybody that's out there listening to us. And we look forward to taking a little break right now and then getting back here in the wintertime and starting to produce some more content.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. And I know we've talked about this before, and Mike, you're just such a strong advocate on Twitter in terms of like mental health related issues. And just want to put that offer out there again. If anybody just needs to be connected to resources, whatever, you know, however we can help, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm on Twitter at Torres Takes. I've had people reach out to me, and, you know, that, I mean, being able to kind of point people in the right direction, that's the best thing that I can do on that stupid platform. You know, like it's really that's actually a good use of it, rather than me doom scrolling through it, you know. So be happy to help anybody in that way. Mike, tell everybody your terrible Twitter handle. What's your handle?
Yeah, I am at MDRC0508. It's the worst. I've gone through that a million times. Well, I'll tell you about it in Arizona. Come to Arizona. First pitch. I'll tell you all about it.
All right, good stuff. And the show does have a Twitter handle at Fantasy B Beat, so you could follow us there. This off season, we are going to call it a show for today. We'll be taking a little hiatus this off season. Come back to you. We'll come back at some point, maybe in we got to talk November, December, something like that. But we'll talk. We'll figure it out. I'm tired.
Or opening day.
Or no, definitely before that. But all right, we'll talk to you then. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Fantasy Baseball Beat.